Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras. And before we begin, we want to remind you again that for more of the best content from Israel, sign up today for our streaming platform, ILTV+. Now, coming up in today's newscast, terror attacks against Israelis rising dramatically again as Ramadan and the so-called Palestinian Land Day approaching. Meantime, Israel trying to do more in negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, but Ukraine, for one, still asking for a different kind of support. And finally, a young boy's illness sparking a renewed campaign for vaccinations. The Israeli Health Ministry confirming its first case of polio in decades. Our top news tonight, terror gripping the Israeli capital again overnight as a Palestinian terror suspect stabbing and moderately wounding 2 Israeli police officers. And this just a day after a similar assault in Jerusalem as well. According to reports and CCTV footage from the scene, the suspect, who has since been claimed as a member of the Hamas terror organization, can be seen calmly approaching and then suddenly attacking the 2 officers who were stationed in the Old City. Nearby police then responding to the chaos and shooting the suspect in the back, neutralizing him. The wounded officers, on the other hand, both in their early 20s, taken to Jerusalem's Shaare Tzedek Medical Center for treatment. This is the second such attack in as many days, however, and security officials estimating that such terror attacks will likely escalate in the coming weeks. Public Security Minister Omer Bar-Lev warning that the attacks are not necessarily connected, but likely inspired by one another, as they often are in the weeks leading up to Ramadan and the so-called Palestinian Land Day later this month. And further, several other recent attacks already reported in the region as well. For one, a Palestinian suspect linked to 2 stabbing attacks against civilians in under 24 hours just outside of Jerusalem last week. Then overnight Monday, 2 border police officers lightly hurt in a suspected car ramming attack in the West Bank. The troops had entered the town of Silat al-Harithia to reportedly demolish the home of a suspect in the Homs shooting attack from last December. And finally, a 16-year-old Palestinian shot dead Sunday night when throwing firebombs at a military outpost in Abu Dis. This making him the 6th Palestinian to be killed in such altercations in the past 2 weeks alone. Now back to Ukraine. Western intelligence agencies showing that the Russian invasion is slowing more and more every day. This as Ukrainian forces, civilian and military alike, still unified against the growing number of Russian forces who are entering their country. But that said, the tragedy is far from over. Ukrainian officials then repeating calls for direct negotiations and additional support from the West. ILTV's Asaf Nissan with the details.
Прагнули розмови між президентом України і Владимиром Путіним, тому що ми всі з вами розуміємо, що рішення остаточні ухвалює саме він, тим більше зараз, за нинішніх обставин. Тому, звісно, я про це скажу, але тут немає жодної таємниці, всі про це знають, що питання в тому, наш президент не боїться нічого. В тому числі він не боїться прямої зустрічі з Путіним.
Once again, Ukrainian officials calling for direct negotiations between Ukrainian President Zelensky and Russian President Putin to end the Russian invasion. But as talks seemingly stall and the Russian bombardment picking up steam, Zelensky calling out to the Kremlin for its bad faith in the talks, especially as the so-called evacuation corridors, through which civilians were said to be promised safe passage, are anything but safe.
Це не люди. Була домовленість про гуманітарні коридори. Чи спрацювала вона? Замість неї спрацювали російські танки, російські гради, російські міни. Вони навіть замінували дорогу, яку погоджували для підвезення продуктів і ліків для людей, для дітей у Маріуполь. Вони знищують навіть автобуси, які мають вивозити людей. Але при цьому вони роблять так, щоб відкрився невеличкий коридор на окуповану територію, на кілька десятків людей. Не так у Росію, як до пропагандистів, прямо до них, на телекамери. Мовляв, ось хто рятує. Ось вони. Просто цинізм, просто пропаганда.
To watch full episodes of ILTV's Israel Daily and tons of other content from Israel, visit our website at iltv.tv or download the ILTV Plus app.